Let me read to you a passage from the 9th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 32 to 38. It's the Gospel for Tuesday of the 14th week in Ordinary Time. St. Matthew writes, "While they were going out, a man who was demon-possessed and could not talk was brought to Jesus. And when the demon was driven out, the man who had been mute spoke. The crowd was amazed and said, 'Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel.' But the Pharisees said, 'It is by the prince of demons that he drives out demons.' Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field.'" That's from Matthew chapter 9, verses 32 to 38. What does it suggest to us? Well, Matthew's Gospel is notable for setting Jesus Christ within the context of the Scriptures. That is to say, because of Matthew's frequent allusions to Old Testament texts and to how Christ fulfilled the Scriptures, it is clearly one of his aims to show how Jesus relates to the entirety of revealed religion. He fulfills the Scriptures, and they are to be understood in light of him. This is one of the reasons why many scholars are of the view that his Gospel was written above all for those with a Jewish background. Now, in our passage that I've just read, Matthew reports a significant observation made by the crowds, and I suspect that it is reported by Matthew with approval. I suspect that he reports it as representing his own teaching on the person and ministry of Jesus. The crowd, having seen Christ sovereignly expel the demon from the mute man, with the result that the man immediately spoke, marveled. The crowd was amazed and said, "Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel." The people were obviously not simply referring to our Lord's casting out of a demon to enable a dumb man to speak. They were referring to the entire range of supernatural power being so effortlessly wielded by Christ. Nothing seemed difficult for him when it came to the command of the natural and supernatural elements. Who in all of Israel's history could compare with him? The crowds could think of no one in their past who could, as we would put it, hold a candle to him. They may have been especially thinking of Christ's confrontation with Satan and his minion spirits, and of how he dominated them with such ease. When we think of it, where in the Old Testament is there any parallel with Christ's confrontation with and domination of Satan? Eve entered into dialogue with Satan, and it led to her and her husband's undoing. Job resisted the wiles of Satan, but he did not overthrow him. Moses did not formally confront Satan in any explicit and massive way. The same is to be said of the prophets. We do not read of John the Baptist confronting Satan and the demons and scattering them. This is one among many of the obvious differences between Christ and those various servants of Yahweh who had gone before him. But it was not the only way in which nothing like him or what he was doing had been seen before in Israel. No one had displayed such power on so many distinct fronts. He effortlessly raised the dead at a mere word. He cured all kinds of illnesses. With a handful of food, he fed thousands of people. He walked on a turbulent sea over a considerable distance, and at a word calmed a powerful storm at sea. What he would not do is tamper with the freedom of man. If people chose to reject him or harass him or scheme against him and even betray him, as did one of his very own, then he did not exercise his almighty power to prevent them. He did not make people love and accept him, nor did he prevent people from setting their faces against him. But of course, his almighty power was, in the event, displayed precisely in his freely submitting to the machinations of men and redeeming the world of its sin precisely in this setting. In Christ's power, which was revealed constantly in his mercy and compassion, was seen nothing of the like in Israel's history. In Christ's teaching too, in his teaching, there was also something altogether unique. Though fulfilling the teaching of the Old Testament, in so many respects it transcended it. I am referring above all to Christ's teaching about himself and his mission. The Father and I are one, he said. Where was the like in all of Israel's history? Before Abraham ever was, I am. My Father works, then so do I. The leaders of the Jews took up stones to stone him because, in calling God his own Father, in the sense he clearly meant, he was making himself equal to God. Where was the like in all of Israel's history? He who sees me sees the Father, he said. The Father is in me and I am in the Father. I shall send you another advocate, the Spirit of truth. All he has will be taken from what is mine. He who believes in me will live forever. As the crowd said, nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel. Despite all this, it is very possible for man to refuse Christ and his unique claims and teaching. We read that the Pharisees, seeing all he was doing, accused him of being evil. It was through being in league with Satan that he was doing these extraordinary things, they said. So our response to Christ will very much depend on the basic disposition of our will. Our judgment on him will depend on our own moral choice. Are we disposed to submit to the truth, or are we disposed to refuse it? Let us make our choice for Christ and follow him no matter what the cost. Therein lies life everlasting.